Today we are going to cover WordPress mobile apps, and this is the screen capture of the WordPress mobile thing, which basically says you can use WordPress mobile apps and do things with it. And hopefully Drew's going to tell us all about what you can do and what the restrictions are, the limitations and so on. And I asked a question on the meetup, which was, how often do you use WordPress on your mobile or tablet? With a multi-choice answer: all the time, daily, weekly, once in a blue moon, this is the first I've heard of it, or then my tablet's too old, and then discuss. And the answers were never before, once a month, slightly embarrassed to say never, and my tablet is probably too old to keep up, once in a blue moon, rarely, so not weekly, but more often than once in a blue moon. I usually find what I need to do requires the web version though, and that was from Paul Thompson. My answer was, it still works on my tablet, but I can't download a newer version because I haven't got the right version of iOS, what's it called?
iOS.
And Simon said no tablet, and somebody else said every day. What about your mobile phone, Simon? Can you not use a mobile phone to do it?
I only ever check a WordPress site on my phone. And actually there are sites that will give you some indication, and less necessary to check it works on a phone. No, I don't use phones. I mainly use phones for messaging and talking. I've got two big screens here. Life is easy. Life is sweet.
Anyway, I'm going to finish that because the next thing is...
See that?
Yes.
So I've put in the chat the link to the page that Herb showed you on the slides there, which is where you can download their mobile apps for iOS or Android, and they also link on that same page to some desktop apps for Mac and Windows as well. Although why you'd want a particular app on your machine when you can just use your browser, I'm not quite sure. But if you do download the app for either iPhone or Android, once you launch it, will be presented with this screen. And you'll see there at the bottom of the screen that you can either log in with your WordPress.com user ID, or you can enter an existing site address. So for a lot of us who are running our own domains with the open source WordPress from WordPress.org, we would want the bottom option. And when you do select that option, you will be asked for your site address. So I tried to sign into our website, WP-Pompey.org.uk, and then it will ask you for a username and password. And then hopefully, if all is okay, you will be presented with the dashboard. Now, there is one issue. Your site or your host has to allow what's called the xmlrpc. It's actually a file in WordPress, but it's also a protocol that WordPress uses to allow the app to communicate directly with your site without having to send web pages back and forth. Now, I found in my experience it's a 50-50 chance as to whether your host has blocked that or not. Some hosts seem to block it as a belt and braces option to try and protect people, because they say it could be a route for hackers to try and access your site. But when I've sort of read up on it, WordFence, which is quite a good security organization for WordPress, they seem to suggest there doesn't seem to be much difference between attacks on WP login or the XML RP. So in my case, one of the hosts that didn't allow it, I just sent them a support ticket saying I needed to use it on my site, and they just opened it up. In the case of WP-Pompey, there didn't seem to be an issue. Had you previously whitelisted that, Herb, or is it just your hosting allows it as well?
No, XML RPC does work on WP-Pompey.
Yeah.
but I tried to visit xmlrpc and that's its response. xmlrpc server accepts post requests only, which is...
Yes. Yeah. So it's literally a way for, I mean, it's basically an API endpoint. So it's literally a way for apps and things to send information directly to your WordPress site without having to go through the dashboard. So really, once you get to this page, it's almost like sort of a mini version of your WordPress dashboard that you'd normally see after you logged in. And you can see there at long top there, you've got stats, posts, media and pages, and then it sort of reflects itself as you go further down. Now the stats tends to need the Jetpack plugin to be connected. And I believe you need to have a user ID on WordPress.com for you to be able to see it. But what it does is it sort of gives you Google type analytics, but they're all generated using WordPress.com servers and the Jetpack plugin. So there's not quite so many issues with privacy concerns that you get with some of the Google Analytics stuff. I've got a couple of my sites where I do see statistics come through and a few that I just haven't bothered. They didn't need the Jetpack plugin to do it. But if you wanted to see stats using it, you could. Then if you go into posts, I found this quite interesting. So when you first go into posts, you might end up it looking a bit like this. You haven't posted anything. And in this case, it's because I haven't posted anything to WP-Pompey because Herb mostly posts it. So I don't know if you can see there, but there's like a little toggle at the top or filter where you can say, see everyone's posts. And then when you swap that, you can see all of the published posts on the site, basically. But it's a good way, I guess, if you've got multi-authors for particular authors to view their posts. And as you may or may not be able to see after the sort of little preview, there's edit, view and more. Edit literally takes you into a edit version. So you can go through and make changes to any typos if you want. View opens it in a mobile browser, so you can just check how it's viewing on mobile. And then more just gives you a bigger option, so you can duplicate the posts. You can move it to draft if you didn't really want it to be published, etc., etc. And then down in the bottom there, you'll see there's a blue circle with a plus in it, and that's where you can write a new post. And then it does come up with the block editor, which I thought was quite interesting. So let's do mobile app. And then you can see again, you've got things like you can choose whether you want your text to be aligned. You can bold, you can italic as you would normally. And then there's also a cog underneath the block that you're currently writing. And that brings up some other information. So in this case, you've got the ability to change the text color and the background color for that particular block. And then your ellipsis there, the 3 dots, you have the ability to transform the block. So you could say, no, I don't want that to be a paragraph. I'd like it to be the heading. And then you've got your little headings down there, so you can change it to the type of heading you want, which I thought was quite useful. Change back to a paragraph. And you can also duplicate the block. You can copy the block and you can cut the block off altogether if you want. And then above the actual keyboard on the left, there is a blue plus. So they like their little blue colors. And this is where you can see the block inserter, I believe it's known technically. This is where you can pick other blocks to use. Pick an image block. You can either take a photo with the camera on your mobile device. You can choose an image from the device itself, or you can switch to the media library and then choose an image to go in. Once you've got the image there, there is like a little paintbrush and spanner in the top right hand corner, and if you click on that button you can edit it, which allows you to crop, and you can make some basic changes to the image inside the app. In this case, I'll just leave it as it is. And then again, we've got our little cog here and our ellipsis. And the cog for the image allows us to see what would probably be in the right-hand side of your dashboard. So you can change whether you want it to be rounded, default. You can choose the size for it. And quite importantly, you've got the ability to add some alt text to the image. You can probably hear next door's dog there. And you can immediately set it as a featured image as well, which I thought was quite nice. So I always end up having to upload it twice when I'm in the WordPress dashboard. And what I can see, it tends to be the standard blocks. So I have added this to a site where I've downloaded some extra blocks and they don't appear. So I think it literally is the ones that WordPress have decided are part of the standard block editor at the moment. So as they add more, I suspect they'll become available within the mobile app. Then you've got the ability to either save it as draft, preview the post, and what I quite liked was this post settings option here as well, which is where you can go in and select categories and tags for your post. So you, excuse me, you actually can, do an awful lot to your post from starting from scratch. You can choose the post format if you use those on your site. You can change the featured image at this point. You can make the post sticky. You can even alter the slug for the post. And you can set an excerpt from post if you don't want it to auto-generate it as well. And then once you're ready for it to be published, you can hit the publish button. But if you don't want it to publish, you can just save it as draft. Now, I have tried this. Sorry.
Publish it.
You want me to publish it?
Yeah.
I have tried this while the mobile phone was offline, and all of that worked. And when you go to publish or save, it just says it'll upload it when it's next connected. I don't think it does it in the background. So I think when you're next in connection, you just need to open the app, and you will see once the app is open that it says it's uploaded the drafts or the posts that have been written while they're offline. But it does it very quickly. They're just like suddenly available online. And then we can go and preview that and see what it looks like. I was quite impressed on how much you could actually do with your posts in the mobile app. It wasn't just a case of putting a title and a paragraph in and then having to do more when you get back to your desktop. You've got the ability to see your drafts there. You've got the ability to see any that are scheduled, and you can also go and see any binned ones there as well. Pages is pretty much the same in the fact that you get the block editor. However, what I did find quite interesting is when you choose to create a new page, you get these options to pick an about page, and it gives you these templates to use. Now, they're not part of any site that I've got loaded, so these must be coming from templates that WordPress.com use.
Is this part of Gutenberg 13.6?
Well, it seems to be on more than just, because 13.6 is in beta, isn't it?
Yeah, there's something in the next version of it where you have templates for post types which aren't posts.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could well be, and it's sort of in the app. I mean, it's quite nice in the fact that you can pick things. What tends to happen, though, especially in pages, is if you use one of these, where's something that's interesting, create page, it literally gives you the sort of skeleton, and you go in and you make you change them to what you want the text and your links to be, basically. However, what then happens is when it goes to the live site, it tries to fit in with your theme. So if you've got sidebars and what have you, even though the template might be looking like it's a full screen hero page, it suddenly gets squashed into fitting within your theme. So it'll be interesting to see how they develop that. But in general, if you just want something that sits with your site, you just go to create a blank page at the bottom, and then you've basically got your block editor again. So you can just do the standard creation for your page, add in media. And then you've got access to your media library as well. So if you need to go in and make any changes to it, change any of the alt text, you can do that on the mobile app. There's also the ability there to deal with comments. So you can see any comments that are currently on the site, any that are pending. You can spam them, you can approve them, etc. And then there is the ability to use plugins as well. So it's interesting, it does show you the plugins that you've already got. If you go into manage, you can literally pull up the details about the plugin. If you need to deactivate it, you can swap that switch there. And you can even remove the plugin as well. So if you need to go in and do some debugging and you need a quick way to get in and just turn a few things off, that might be quite a quick way of getting in there, because it's not needing to draw the page, it's using that XML protocol that will probably be a bit quicker for you to debug. Now, where did I see? You can add them as well, which is interesting. Oh, you have to search for the plugin, I think. So can't type that. Regenerate. This is one I tend to use on mine an awful lot. So you can literally install a plugin using the app. Once the plugin has installed, it will give you the option to activate it. And it's just like if you were logged in through the dashboard. And again, you can then remove it or deactivate it if you want to.
Drew, can I just butt in and ask a question about regenerate thumbnails?
Yes.
Does it update alt tags for in pages?
It basically regenerates the thumbnails of the images you've uploaded. So it doesn't
just the images.
It just basically resizes them. So it tends to be used if you change the theme on a site. And the theme needs different sized images. You can use that plugin. It will go through and regenerate the sizes needed for the new theme, if you like. So it won't actually change anything in the original images.
Okay. Yeah. It's just that I've come across somebody who didn't specify alt tags and then did them retrospectively, and they don't go through to the page.
Really? That's interesting.
That you have to remove the image from the page and then put the image back again, and then you get the alt text.
Really? I didn't know that.
Because they thought they were doing ever so well, doing all the alt text. And
yeah. Do you know if that's just pages, or if was that posts as well? Or
I imagine it's the same. I imagine it's the same. It's just
I have to test that one out.
Images, you know.
I suppose that's because you can change the alt text when you insert an image, and therefore it wouldn't expect to use a modified alt text from the images, from the original image that was inserted.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to use shortcodes that would display images, and they would have taken the most recent information from the content, but it's not the same with Gutenberg now, is it?
No.
Can you go back to looking at that post that you just created?
Yes.
Because I've just been in there and edited that post, which is now published. If you go back and edit it, what happens to the block? Oh, there you go, unsupported. So I've added that block in there, and it's now marked up as an unsupported thing.
It's not fully supported.
Yeah, there you go.
It's interesting, isn't it?
I wonder how you do that. Allow WordPress.com to edit this block in the mobile editor.
Open Jetpack security settings. I bet if I click on that, we'll go into a browser. Oh no, blimey, what's this then? Monitor your site's uptime. Block malicious. Manage collection. Allow WordPress.com login. Okay. I think that's all we need to do. Error updated. Please contact for R1.
Never mind. There you go. So you're right. So it does limit it to whatever.
Yeah.
For some reason.
And I had I'm not sure if it's a theme or a plugin on a client site where it had created extra blocks, and those didn't appear in the mobile app either. So, but yes. And then you do have site settings there, which basically allows you to, change the site title and tag, etc. And then you can view your site if you want to double check it on the mobile app. And it's interesting to see many people say they don't use it on mobile, because it's always interesting to see how your theme renders on a mobile device. And if you do click the WP admin one, it literally will open a browser for you, and you will then be given the login name and password screen. So you're basically just in a mobile web browser at that point. So it doesn't give you a token. The only thing, other thing you can do with the app is if you click the disclosure arrow next to your site's title at the top there, it comes up and shows you the sites that you've got in the app, and you can then add more if you want. I can have seen from testing, you can be logged in using your WordPress.com username and password, and if that allows you access to sites through Jetpack, you can have multiple sites that way. Otherwise, they all have to be self-hosted sites. So you can have multiple sites in there, but basically you go in to add a site and you're back to that start again where it's asking for the site address, and then it will an admin name and password. But that does then mean when you come to this screen, you could tap on the one you want and swap between the two. So you're not necessarily limited to just owning one site in the app. But yeah, so basically a quick run through what's available in the app. It does have this reader tab down the bottom, but that is basically an RSS reader. What it does is blogs that are on WordPress.com. If you want to follow those blogs, then you will see posts in date order in this tab. But it doesn't seem to allow you to add RSS feeds from self-hosted sites. I couldn't see a way to get that to work. And I sort of just think that the actual app itself, I think there's a couple of reasons why it could be good to use. One, I think if you're out and about and you want to sort of draft a post, it's a quick way of being able to jot down what you're thinking at the moment and sort of have it in a draft state using the block editor there and then. But equally, I think it sort of lowers the barrier to entry. So if somebody does go onto a hosting site and installs WordPress, they don't actually need a PC or a laptop in order to then administer it. They can just download the app and use it within the app. The drawbacks, I think, at the moment is there doesn't seem to be any facility for custom post types. So if your site heavily uses a custom post type, you won't gain access to it through the app. And as we said earlier, at the moment, it seems to be limited to the core blocks from WordPress rather than any that are added to it. So happy to answer any questions. I can only tell you my use of the app, but
it didn't do the SEO stuff in those posts then.
No, actually, but that's probably because again they're added via a plugin, aren't they? It's not part of core. So that does seem to be the one thing, and I think obviously a lot of this is what is available if you had a WordPress.com site. These are the things that you get with WordPress.com, but we're obviously benefiting that they're actually letting us add our sites to it as well. Yeah.
Does it work with the classic editor?
Now, I did in here. It does say don't use the block editor. So I'm assuming at that point, if we go back and try and do a new post, we will only get the classic editor. Yeah. So I've got no plus down the bottom here. Title. Yeah. So we've got a much more limited. Oh, no, it's just to add images now. Yeah. So yeah, so you can set the site, and I suspect if your site is not using Gutenberg or is disabled Gutenberg, it will then fall back to only allowing this use classic editor anyway.
What about widgets? Does it handle them?
No, I haven't seen anything about widgets at all. Now, interestingly enough, I haven't got it here, but I did play around with it on the iPad earlier. And it did have a section for themes, which doesn't seem to be in the phone side of it. So when we go on to talk about other things, I might go and pick it up and see what is available on there. But yeah, there's no, in the phone app, there's no access for themes or widgets at all.
What you mentioned quite early on in the talk, Drew, about xmlrpc.
Mm-hmm.
One of the issues I had on a couple of sites that do work on it, I spotted in WordFence that there were a lot of attacks on the site, and there are quite a few plugins to actually disable xmlrpc, and they stopped a lot of the attacks I was getting. So is there, you've got to have it running to run it?
Yeah, if you don't have xmlrc running on your site, if you blocked it either at the hosting level or with a plugin, then you won't be able to use the app. When I was looking at, you're right. I mean, it is a vector that attacks do come in. From what I can see, though, if you actually have a plugin like WordPress or WordFence or Securi or some such, they'll normally stop the attacks no matter where they're coming from, whether it's XML or whether it's the word WP login.
Okay. Yeah, I was running WordFence on here, and I looked on one of the WordFence forums, and it actually suggested installing this plugin to disable xmlrpc. So since then, obviously, it's prevented a lot of the attacks, actually. But
still, were the attacks successful, or were they literally?
No.
Yeah.
They were all blocked, basically. Yeah. But yeah, it just said, obviously it was it was becoming an errand to look through all the logs and everything.
Yeah.
But there were so many, so it's good to try and reduce them as much as possible. But yeah, I mean, I suppose it's something you can switch on and off quite easily.
Yeah, and I think having it off for a while tends to make them go and attack somebody else, because if they're getting 403 coming back all the time, then they obviously realise they're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like all things, I think it's you can in the settings, I think, go as far as using two-factor authentication, so that the app has to log in using two-factor as well, which. Okay.
Yeah, again, it just that adds to it, doesn't it? And it just adds another layer in, I suppose, so you can drop off certain things like that xmlrpc.
Yeah.
Okay.
What happens when you click on WP admin?
Say again, sorry.
What happens when you click on WP admin?
It opens up a browser, so it'll either go to your mobile browser or your tablet's browser and drop you in on your normal login page.
So you get a full set of features then that you normally see.
Yeah, so the only downside is you basically, if you're a mobile, you have to know that you've got your username and password. So if you haven't got that saved in your device, you've then got to go and find it. And obviously, if you've got two-factor involved, you're then getting involved in two-factor. Whereas I know some other sites, if you click on the WP admin part, it sends a token that logs you in that way, but it doesn't do it in this particular instance.
Okay. I've hidden my WP admin, so it has a different name
It'd be interesting to see, because obviously the app is able to read your WordPress table, so it might know where the login is anyway.
All right. And what do you get with site settings?
It's literally just like your site title and tagline, really.
All right.
I think you can change your password if need be, and that's where you can switch on the block editor or not.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's like a cut down version of the general settings in your own dashboard.
And is this app actually written by WordPress?
Yes.
Actually, it looks like we need to promote this as app, because people like to use mobile phones all the time.
Yeah.
It's quite functional, isn't it? If you're out and about and you want to do posts and that sort of thing, it looks very easy to use and, you know, on the go, basically. Which is,
absolutely.
Yeah, you can use it on a road or some other places.
Yeah, it's if you're backpacking or doing one of these other things and traveling, you know, you can do your posts on the go. You're not having to wait to come back and type it all up on the machine. You can do it as you're walking around, basically. So,
and I think if you've got, you know, I mean, a lot of people are hosting WordPress for less commercial reasons, so they've got a personal blog and what have you. I think it's ideal because you can take an image there and then you can use the camera, the recording facilities on your device. You can even upload videos, you can record videos. So it's quite handy. I think the only time you start to get to its limitations is when you've as a designer have customized the site for the client. Some of your customizations won't then be available within the app, but the general being able to write a post and draft it is still there for the media uploading, etc. And even the, you know, if they've got a site that uses comments a lot, and they want to go in and be able to approve them on the go without having to wait to get back to, you know, the desk or what have you, then that's all there as well.
yeah, it looks very functional, actually.
On tablet, though, you can use the desktop app on your tablet quite successfully, can't you?
Yes.
I think it's worth to raise or to go and look for the ticket if there's a ticket about some kind of advertising of this application in WordPress admin, because I'm not actually using this application. Of course, I'm sticking up with my desktop, but most of actual users are on mobile phones all the time. So it will be a huge advantage if they are suddenly discover that they can do it on a go. So I think it's worth a ticket, or to check if there's a ticket already and promote it. I think something like this. Yeah,
that's true. And I think, interestingly enough, almost the cut down block editor experience on the mobile app, I think, is easier for people to understand. So it might be a way of introducing people to using it in the first instance. And then once they've got that under their belts, of course, they can then go to the standard WordPress admin and they can do a bit more. But, you know, I can see some of my clients who have struggled with the change from classic to block editor. I think if I'd shown them this in the first instance, because it's using the mobile idioms, if you like, you know, the buttons above the keyboard and what have you, it sort of makes it feel a bit more like you're inside Instagram or you're inside Facebook, you know.
Yeah, it's less. Sorry, go on.
No, go on, Mike.
I was going to say it's less overwhelming, isn't it? If you go on to something like that, to do a page, if you're suddenly presented with a lot of options, you're going to go, what do I press now? Like you say, but that's very simple, very straightforward, very easy to publish, post a page there, and you know, it does look very good, actually.
Any other questions?
Yeah, what I was going to say, Drew, is when was this one released?
When was this one released? Bear with me a second.
Because I do remember seeing, I think it was in Core or something, that they were doing a hell of a lot of work on the app.
I think it does get regular updates, to be fair. I think it was a good few years ago that I opened it and thought, oh, this isn't any good whatsoever. So
Yeah.
it has sort of, been, so the last update of this version was a week ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But if people will be using it more and more, they will be asking for new features, they will
Yes.
be raising tickets, etc. And it will be higher priority in development if it will be used.
This is very true. Now, this is interesting because I've just seen on here, it says in the update on which I didn't discover this myself, you see. So apparently these blocks are now draggable. So do I need to just drag it?
Draggable.
It says blocks are now draggable. I've got the down arrow so I can move it up and down. Perhaps it means that. But I thought actually if you can drag it up and down, that would probably make...
How are you going to select it? With just one finger or something?
Oh yeah, you hold, look. Move it up and down. Can you see that? So if I tap on it and hold, you can see it sort of says it's doing something with it. And now I can drag it up and down the post until I get to the point I want it to be.
Who knew
Looks like fun.
reading release notes would be helpful, eh?
I know, exactly.
Surely not.
These people that write the release notes, they need to know it's very useful.
I've just added WP-Pompey to my tablet,
Mhm.
which unfortunately is an old tablet, therefore it doesn't have the right version of iOS for the latest version of the
Does it
app.
say which version you're on?
What, of the app?
Of the app, yeah.
How do I find that out? Settings?
Yeah.
Herb, what's happened to your voice?
I've got a sore throat.
It doesn't sound like you at all. Is it really you?
Is it really?
Does it look like me?
It does look a bit like you, but bright red version.
That's because I've been out playing golf all afternoon.
But the voice is
There we are.
completely
Can you
wrong.
see that?
That's what it is.
Sounds like COVID voice to me.
I have a cough.
I reckon it's-
Oh, runny nose, sore throat.
it's that
I think he's
problem-
been abducted by aliens.
Yeah, it's that problem with that camera that's causing
It's
itself funny.
It's not just the voice, it's the blurriness
Yeah.
as well. There's definitely something going on.
Has it gone blurry again?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, is it? Okay.
yeah, your voice is blurry as well. So.
You've obviously got a temperature.
Right, how do I find the
If
WordPress
you
app?
go to, on here, the head and shoulders at the top brings up an about WordPress, and then it tells you the version under there, 20.2 in this instance.
Oh, I've got WordPress here, right.
Oh, right.
Allow WordPress to access. It doesn't say anything else. Right, where do you go? Back to the app.
So on this screen at the top, there's like a little head and shoulders, and that says app settings, help and support, and then about.
Help and support. Version 16.5.1.
So it's a few versions behind them, isn't it?
But it can't update anymore because of the version of iOS that supports.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Shame.
Drew, sorry if I missed it, but if you go into the actual one of the posts, like the one you were playing with just now, you notice it's got an update in the top by the 3 dots.
Yes.
Oh
That's
yeah,
the
sorry,
same.
I know what
So
that
you
is.
can update the post.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. Caught on.
We've got a plugin called Table Press. You wouldn't be able to get into that, would you, on this app? It would show-
No, and I don't know whether
You could
as
show-
this became more popular, whether there would be a way for plugin developers to be able to provide access within the app, because that would probably make sense, wouldn't it? But
So at the moment, we did just show you the shortcode.
yeah,
Right.
Well, it's like it didn't show my chart block, Andrew, because it says that's not supported and you need to go in to do something.
and is that because it's not supported in blocks in general, or just?
No, it's a block.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it's not supported because it's
It's not a core block.
yeah, or something. Yes. So we'd have to go and find out how to go and make that work.
But
Yeah.
it did seem to suggest there might be a way of doing it with Jetpack, didn't it?
It does, yeah, but
is there seems to be, if you just log into a site using your Jetpack credentials, it almost is using like an Ajax version of the app rather than an app, if that makes sense.
what we
It
could
just
do
looks
is
slightly different, and it does look like it's always calling in from the web.
we could look at what the requests are actually being performed on the access log, couldn't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not right now though, because it's
Not right.
it's 8 o'clock. We've got other things to do rather than looking at log files all night long.
Shall I stop sharing?
So this, you didn't have to actually connect to WordPress.com to do that, did you?
No, so in this instance, you literally just log in with your admin username and password. On some other sites, you can, if you've got Jetpack installed, also log in using your WordPress.com.
Yeah. So that's what I just did. I added Pompey to the list of my sites, logged in using my, and I got 1, 2, 3, 4 sites I don't ever use at all listed in there.
One last question for Drew, might not be actually. I'm just going to the App Store. What is it called? WordPress Website Builder.
If you search for WordPress Website Builder, the first
So
one
I've got
you get
WordPress Website Builder and WordPress World.
if you just search for WordPress, you will find one that's called WordPress Website Builder, and it's by Automatic, so you'll know you've got the right one.
Okay.
Or you can go and visit the WordPress.org mobile and start from there.
Yeah, the link at the top of the chat.
Oh, too
I
late.
guess there's one for Android as well.
But also, user can be easily confused and install something else or something sinister even.
I said I take it there's a version for Android as well as iOS.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just trying it now, actually, the Android one. So
I thought there would be.
And the features do seem to be in parity as well. So
into my email address. You don't have to put all this HTTPS in, do you?
I didn't, and it seemed to be okay.
Couldn't connect. We received a 403 error.
So you've got a problem with XML RPC.
Yeah, my site's xmlrpc endpoint.
So do you have a plugin that's blocking that? If not, you'll need to speak to your host to ask them to whitelist it.
At this point, I generally refer to my assistant, Mr. Miller.
Well, what you need to do is you go to your website, eBPS. Which website are you trying?
eBPS.
Right. You go to ebps.org.uk, xmlrpc.php, and you get a 403. You don't have permission to access this resource. Now, it could be because your hosting company has blocked access to
No, not
XML
Scott
RPC.
again. So is it ebps.org.uk? What's the rest of it?
Hold on. That on the chat.
Chat.
Have you deleted the file?
I was going to say, I remember you doing something with xmlrpc back along.
Forbidden. Yeah, I don't have permission to access this resource.
What about Ferns and Micronesia?
I need a bigger desk.
That's interesting though, because when I type that into a browser for my site, I'm getting forbidden as well, but I have been able to access my site because they did ask the host to allow it. So the app's working, but the browser won't give me XML RPC PHP.
So it looks like for promoting this mobile application, we need to speak about this to hosting companies and make like a campaign for them to whitelist this ability for this application, or possibly application needs to be changed to work with some other endpoint for not to stumble across this thing. Possibly
I mean,
it will
it is
be much
interesting
easier.
that WordPress have decided that this is the way that we should connect it, because they've taken out other APIs in order to use the XMLRPC endpoint. So that's obviously the one that they want to use. So you would have thought, therefore, if you're a WordPress host, that you would start supporting it more regularly.
That's interesting. Oh, Scott, I've got something for you. I can't get into Ferns and Micronesia. I've got an error establishing a database context. Contact database server at mysql0redithosting.co.uk. 3311 cannot be established.
Hang on, I can do one thing at a time. Right, you've blocked all access to xmlrpc in your htaccess file. Block WordPress xmlrpc.php requests added by AL 6 of the 5th, 2019.
Do you mean I bang to rights?
Who's oh, Andrew? Oh, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Right now.
You unblocked it.
Yeah. I think by default, WordPress started adding it into the htaccess because it was been hacked. It was been used to crap out.
Oh. It's all right now.
Yep, it's working.
Right, move on to the next one. So you can't now get to Ferns and Micronesia.
No.
This is
supposed
to be a clinic.
I've got my SQLi real connect PHP network get address get addro info failed. Name of service not known. In home OEDR data www.fernsandmicronesia.org.uk. WP includes WP-DB PHP online 1753.
That sounds like a PHP error to me. Oh, welcome to PHP WordPress Portsmouth, the Red IT Help Desk.
Exactly.
Hey.
Oh, here we go. We've got some breaking news. Change the subject slightly.
So my htaccess file was modified on the 12th of the 5th, so I'm presuming that's when the site was last updated.
Oh God.
Anyway, I'm going to let you solve Andrew's problem.
Yeah, I'm on it.
And I'm going to go back to sharing my screen, if I can. Slideshow from current slides. What can you see?
We can see the PowerPoint window.
PowerPoint this month's questions.
And now we can see the slide.
Right, you go. Good. So there you go. So we're now moving on to the, what is it called? Closing stuff. Where is it? Wrap up.
Going the wrong way.
I'm going back to find out what it was called. Right, wrap up. So I don't know if I mentioned this last time around, but eventually I've finally updated the list of the WordPress global community sponsors to the list that we can see if you look at WordCamps. They're different from in previous years. There you go. So we have to thank them for something. And now, yesterday, or early this morning, we had 399 meetup members, but I've just looked and we got 400. Ta-da! Which means we're still nearly the second smallest group in the South Coast. which is still smaller than Tunbridge Wells, who haven't met for the last 2 years.
Would they have met online?
No, I don't think so.
They're not running at the moment.
Secretly, they're meeting.
But Simon, how many members in Cambridge? It's 1,000, isn't it?
It's somewhere north of 1,000, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very good.
I'll check for you.
So what percentage is 400 of 491,000 members? 10.1%.
Yes.
Yeah. We've got to work harder on that one, boys and girls.
Is it 10.1?
What, 10%? It's not 10%, is it?
No,
I think less than
491,000.
1%.
I was going to say that sounds more like 1% to me.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right then.
Yeah.
Good.
Drew, I'm having problems logging in. It says, it looks like this username password isn't associated with this site.
It's probably because your login isn't WP-login.php either.
Oh, I wonder if it is that.
Or
Yeah,
if
could
it
very well
uses
be if you change that.
xmlrpc,
So if I should disable that plugin.
I don't know. You can't run mobile when you're running a local machine, can you? Or dev site on your local PC, you can't access the mobile easily. Or can you do it via some weird, wonderful iOS connection?
No, I don't think you can do it through iOS. You might be able to do it if you're using something like a DNS routine,
Yeah,
dynamic DNS. You might be able to do it that way.
But then why would you want to is the question one people might ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you want to run the app, you've probably already published your site, haven't you? If you're in developing the site, you're probably not at the stage where you're writing posts and uploading media. You're probably more busy doing PHP work and block development.
Right. Who knows this? Olga, you still in marketing team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about some promotions. Anyway, I had no time. Last month was quite rough, but I'm back in business.
So coming up this year, WordPress 6.0.1 was released recently. We've got WordCamp US in September, and WordPress 6.1. When I looked yesterday, I couldn't really find any details about it, and eventually I did manage to find a blog post that gave us a date for when it was. But it says that WordPress, the current release is WordPress 6.0, and I'm thinking, is that right? Isn't the current release the one they're working on, which is WordPress 6.1, and therefore we should be pointed to the right things? I don't know whether or not the core team have kept up with keeping people aware of what's going on. Used to be a lot easier.
6.1 was released what, last week?
No, 6.0.1 was released.
6.0.1, sorry, yeah. Yeah, there it is. It was released on the 12th.
Yeah. But I can't find much else about what's actually happening. But then I haven't spent much time looking because it's been too hot and I've been on holiday.
And playing golf.
And that as well. And if anyone else knows what's going on, what is really planned for the future, then they can come and tell us about it one day. What I do know is that there are now 100 full site editing themes available from WordPress.org. Most recent was published today or yesterday. And on my website, blocks.wp-a-to-z.org, I list them all, and then you can go and have a look at each of the different template parts and patterns that they provide. The target was to get to 500 by the end of the year, and if we've just made it to 100 in July, then it's got to be an exponential growth over the next 5 months. Will this happen? We don't know. Today we had Mobile WordPress with Drew Westcott, and I reckon next month rather than having a Zoom meetup, we should actually go and have a physical one. Let's come and say hello and meet in a pub somewhere. Simon tried doing that and tried to do it hybrid, and it didn't work. But we've got nicer pubs in Portsmouth. Does anyone want to join me down at Old Portsmouth sometime in next month in August?
You better
Still
get
in West.
your air ticket, Olga.
I'm actually going to actual meetup to speak next week, and we will planning to have a beer after. So it's despite of the result of my speech, I will be drinking later, so I will be good. Hopefully it will be okay. But I speak only once on a some event, and it was horrible because it was complete disaster.
You've spoken at one of our events because you told us about what was in WordPress 5 point something or another, and you all had a go at it, didn't you?
Yeah, but it will be a real event
then?
with people in front of you, and you will be standing and something like this. Last time it was like 12 years ago, and it was a disaster for me. So it will be like second try, I think. But hopefully right now I am handle such things like you have no slides because something went wrong, and will be able to handle even such tough situation. I failed previously in this one.
We can all have big failures. I went to a PHP Hands meeting once upon a time as my first ever meeting, and I'd talked to some people before and said, I can do a presentation to you. And I did on a subject which I entitled You're Doing It Wrong, which is all about WordPress. And I had never been to a PHP Hands meeting, so they had no idea what I was about. I had no idea what PHP Hands was about, and it was pretty much a disaster from start to finish. But I think I did have another go, and it may or may not have got better. It got better because I was throwing sweeties at people. Anyway, that was the last PHP Hands meeting we had on
I was going to say
Monday.
it was the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm going to try and do it, what was it, quarterly or something?
Are they?
That's a good idea.
There's still a PHP Sussex meeting that you can go and attend if you want to do. Or we could find something else to do. Anyway, so my proposal is that rather than having a physical meetup and actually having laptops together, we all just go down the pub and say hello to each other for the first time in many years. And if we can do that early-ish, I could probably even just cycle down there and cycle home.
I thought you were going to say get some golfing afterwards.
You can share pictures, and everyone else will be envy you, and possibly next time there will be much more people eager to get together to assemble.
So either the Still and West or the Lively Lady, or Lone Yachtsman Bar, or if failing that, we could go to the one in what's the Customs House in Gunwharf.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because everyone can get to that one easily, can't
I was going to say it's nearer the station, I guess, isn't it? But
yeah. But
Herb, when you say you're going to cycle there and back,
yes.
isn't that quite optimistic?
The cycling back is optimistic.
Cycling back.
Yeah.
If we start early and finish early, then it should be all right.
We just wondered about the number of drinks you may have.
If you know the lie of the land, it's quite difficult getting back. Getting there is quite difficult, but easier. There's a great big hill.
I don't have to cycle up Portsdown Hill.
You don't have to do the hill. It's pretty much flat, isn't it?
I'll go around it. I've still got to cycle up, going from Havant to Rowlands Castle. There's a final bit of hill at the end.
Oh, it's not huge though.
That's not too bad. But last time I cycled down to Portsmouth, I thought, oh, the wind's in the right direction. And lo and behold, when I left Portsmouth, it wasn't. And I was going into the wind all the way up Eastern Road, which was annoying.
Yeah, would you? Just have some major locks with you if you're leaving your bike in Portsmouth.
Yes.
Well, I'll leave it.
Worse, could be trying to leave it this side of the water.
Really?
Anyway, following that, if we have that meeting or not, then in September, Graham Armfield is going to come and talk to us about his brand new presentation, which is accessibility of the block editor. So I don't know if that's the front-endedness of it or if it's actually for people using the block editor, but it'd be good. Should be nice and interesting. Then we have no idea what's going on in October and just made up things for November and December.
Oh, okay.
So if you can find someone who knows about those two things, headless CMS and blazingly fast front ends, then great. Simon, do you know anyone who knows about headless WordPress?
Yes. And I blanked on his name, but I can find him and let you know.
Righto.
I think he gave up. He was using Divi, but then his company was creating so many sites for whatever reason. He argued that headless CMSs were a lot easier to maintain. I'll probably, if I first ask him if that's his area,
Right.
I'll make a note of it and send him a note. He's pretty friendly and he's highly and wonderfully technical. The topic I would be interested in, if you ever find a speaker, is setting up local development environments. I've been trying with Docker and life kind of got in the way. But at the moment, I have not found a way of really usefully doing a local development environment.
Yeah.
Have you used local at all, Simon?
Oh, local by whatever.
Flywheel.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, yes, I did try it. It was slow and clunky.
Have you tried
faster?
You know, Docker need a lot of memory, so it will be quite heavy on your computer as well.
Have you tried WAMP 64?
164?
WAMP.
What? Sorry,
WAMP.
how do I?
WAMP 64. Because I think Herb will back me up on this. I'm an idiot and I managed to get that to work.
Yeah, but that's not it. Is that a development environment per se, or is it just a hosting environment for local?
That's just a local hosting, but it's perfectly acceptable as a dev environment.
That's what
my
dev environment, if I bother.
I found with WAMP, if you've got a really old website that it was hard to set the WordPress version, was my memory. And in Docker, that is a bit easier. Well, and I wanted to be able to import. What did I want to do? I wanted to import an old website using Duplicator and then just have it run on the local site. So I could then edit it and put in little tweaks. It just seemed difficult in Docker because the amount one needed to learn on Docker was huge.
Yeah.
I've used OpenServer. It's a very simple application. You have Apache, PHP, PHP MySQL, MyAdmin, my gosh, etc. And you can handling versions you need. So I think it's quite simple. I've used this alongside with Docker, and they worked with different ports, so I was able to simultaneously work with several installations all over the place.
I've been using XAMPP lately, XAMPP in Windows.
That's the same as XAMPP or LAMP.
Okay.
It's just a different fork of exactly the same project. Where are you firing it up, son? You got like a droplet or something?
Sorry?
Where are you building it? Have you got like a droplet or a local box?
Well, at the moment, I've just got Docker set up on this machine, and then
Oh, so
I got stuck with the YAML file. I had bits of Docker up and running, and I think I could set up a brand new website, but importing a website from somewhere else and setting it up, I never quite found the blog post to do that. Because the nature of websites is that you it goes live and then it gets updated and tweaked by the client or whatever, more or less on the live site. And so you want to be able to start working with that live site when you're doing complex back-end stuff. Anyway, there seems amongst the Portsmouth group to be a lot of expertise, which I don't think it exists in the Cambridge group.
You almost sort of want your own local sort of cPanel or hosting platform, don't you? Just to fire the instance in the database up.
Yeah.
Here's two.
There you are. That's a lovely subject to cover in October.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Did you know the WordPress 6 has been downloaded 50 million times?
I do now.
The latest version of Gutenberg is 13.6, but in WordPress 6.1, it'll be version 14.1 of Gutenberg, whatever that contains. There are now 59,000 and a bit more plugins on WordPress.org, 12% of which, 8,000, have been tested with WordPress 6. And there's nearly 10,000 themes, of which 100 of them, which is 1%, is it, are full site editing ones. And overall, there have been 7.1 billion downloads of plugins from WordPress.org, of which WordPress SEO is 460 million downloads. There are now 10 plugins which have been downloaded more than 100 million times each. And the average plugin doesn't get even to 100,000 downloads in total in their lifetime. If you want to look at a whole load of other statistics, there's a site called displaywp.com from which these figures didn't come. And there you go. Thank you, Scott, Red IT, for being our sponsor since January 2018, and 34SP for also being a sponsor since December 2018. And if we meet up physically, we won't be asking for any money from them in August, because we're just going to turn up and pay for any drinks and or food ourselves. So that is the end of the meeting today, as far as I'm concerned, and it's 8:30. How do we do that?